Welcome everyone to another episode of Learning with Human Kinetics. My name is Aaron, and today I'm going to discuss a principle that is used in training more often than we realize. And if you're not using it, you might not be getting the most out of your training. I'm talking about the SAID principle. Now, what is SAID? Hopefully the title of the episode sparked a little bit of curiosity, and for those of you who are already aware, I hope this discussion gives you something a little more to think about in terms of exactly how you're using the principle in your training and how you look at general versus specific training. Now, the SAID principle is a specificity concept, or more specifically, see what I did there? SAID stands for Specific Adaptation to Imposed Demand. According to the SAID principle, the system or the body will adapt to the demands placed on it. Now, really, that should be the goal of nearly all of our training. You know, we put stress on our body, the body adapts, and we're able to perform the task more easily the next time we do it. Now, in order to grow or to get stronger or faster or more powerful, you put stress on your body, perform the task, and eventually your body adapts to a certain level of intensity. That is when, depending on your specific goals, you either increase the intensity or you could continue training at that same specific way to become even more comfortable at that same intensity. Now, most often you are going to increase the intensity in one way or another once you adapt. Now, in its simplest form, specificity is a reminder that any gains in strength or athleticism are the result of a specific training stimulus. So when we're talking about training specificity, we are talking about the distinct adaptations to the physiological systems that come about as a result of the training program. Now, unless the training program is designed to stress the physiological system, there will be very limited or possibly no adaptations at all in the system. For example, if you're training for a track and field event, say the 200 meter, you're going to train the respiratory, the cardiovascular, and musculoskeletal systems for that particular event. You're going to train differently for the 200 than you would, say, the mile or the 2 mile. For a training adaptation to happen, a physiological system must be exercised at a level beyond the levels that it's accustomed to training. Now, this would be a form of overload. Think of this in terms of maybe you have always been an 800 meter runner, but now the team needs you to run the 200 sprint for next season. Sure, you can run the 200 easily. You are used to running a full 800 meter, but in order to be competitive at the 200, you have to train differently. And that means that you have to stress the body beyond the level it's used to being stressed in order to run that 200 meter sprint at an even faster pace. Now, in this case, you're going to have to challenge your body to get stronger and faster, specifically in acceleration and sprinting. So instead of having you run 800 meters, I would shorten up your workouts to train the system to get faster. And that probably means running, more 50 meter sprints or 100 meter sprints. Now, this will force your body to get stronger and faster as opposed to working on the endurance needed for the 800 meter. When your body adapts to the speed and the power demands you're putting on it, sprinting the shorter distances at a faster rate of speed will become easier, and you'll become more efficient at those distances. Now, you could go the opposite way. Maybe you're a 400 meter runner and you want to run the 1600. It's possible you have the endurance already to compete at that level, but ask any 400 meter runner to run a mile and you'll probably get a nasty look. So in this case, you'll have to train the body for a longer race. The specific adaptation you're looking for here is endurance and the ability to sustain at a certain speed for a longer distance. You still want to be fast, but instead of running around the track one time, you'll have to build up the adaptation to do it quickly 4 times. Now, maybe you're not a runner at all, and your focus is more strength-based. This was one of the first areas that considered the idea of specificity in training. The term was first suggested in 1945, and at that time it was defined as a training method where the athlete was trained in a specific way to produce a very specific adaptation or training outcome. Now, not a whole lot different from the way that we still define it. In the case of resistance training, SAID or specificity of training refers more so to the muscles and movement patterns involved. It does not, however, mean that all aspects of training have to mimic the sport itself. Now, this is where we have to, kind of be careful and maybe even a little cautious. There's been a debate regarding sport-specific training and if it's a thing, if it should be done, and to what degree. If you're a trainer or sports performance coach, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think there's a validity to the argument, and also I think at times it's a difference in semantics. For example, a squat or a clean could be a great way to train for the adaptations needed to improve a vertical jump. When an athlete is training for something specific like a vertical jump, they should be training to activate or recruit the same motor units that will be required during their competition. But this happens within reason. If the set principle or the concept of specificity were taken literally, all training would mimic the exact actions of the sport the athlete is training for. Now, this is where you see memes and satire videos going overboard, making every single exercise sport specific. It's been said countless times that the best type of sport specific training is practice for the sport itself. You really can't get much more specific than that. Now, the reason you can't mimic the exact sport movement in a strength training session, or maybe I should say, the reason it can't happen successfully, is that you would be overloading the system continuously with the exact same training stimulus. And that could lead to overtraining. Ultimately, it could have a detrimental effect on performance. Now, sport-specific exercises are important to have and have a high degree of transfer, but like I already mentioned, you can't overdo it. Think of a tennis player, for example. The constant swinging motion of a forehand or going overhead, not only for overhead shots, but also when serving. There are plenty of movements like those that can be trained, and they should. It's important to train those movements for strength and resilience and injury reduction. But those movements repeatedly could have the opposite effect and actually lead to overuse injuries. This is one of the many reasons specificity should be balanced with generality. Developing general qualities within training is crucial for the development of young athletes as well as veteran athletes who have deficiencies they need to improve. If the entire training program was based on building sport-specific qualities, the deficiencies would never be improved and the athlete's performance would probably plateau at some point. Now, as coaches, we should consider strength training as a general training method that complements the specific nature of the sport training or practice. That said, as training progresses, it is important to make sure that the system is being challenged and adapting properly to the correct stimulus for the specific goals. That's when training can go from general to specific as you approach a sports season. This is when we can look more closely at the transfer of training and kind of what that looks like. Now, the transfer of training is something that we all work toward and that we strive for in terms of seeing results. Athletes train to get better at their sport, so it's the job of the athlete and the coach to make sure that the training program is as specific as possible to get the results that we're looking for. Now, there's sometimes a bit of lag time between the athlete performing a specific exercise and when the adaptations actually occur. The exception would be when we do something to stimulate the nervous system. So when we talk about transfer of training, we're really looking at how useful or important a skill or exercise is within a training program and how much it will truly benefit the athlete. In other words, is this particular exercise going to get the results that we want, and is it going to transfer to the field or court in a way that's going to help the athlete get better at his or her sport? Now, the challenge is finding those specific exercises or drills and implementing them into the program without overloading the system to the point of injury or becoming a detriment to performance, like I mentioned. I used the example of the tennis player earlier. The same could be true, say, for volleyball. There are a lot of actions and movements we could use in training to help a volleyball player become a better jumper or a better hitter. You want to be able to build up certain adaptations or get a certain response to help strengthen those actions excuse me, on game day. But we have to do it with caution so that we don't cross line into overuse. So how do we do it? There's an excellent 3-step process that you might have seen at other places, but it's laid out really well in the second edition of High Performance Training for Sports that helps develop a strategy for targeting the qualities that you should be training based on the sport or outcome you're training for. Again, the purpose of SAID and getting specific in your training is to stress your body in ways that will build adaptations for your end goal. Now, the first of the 3-step process is identify. Think of this as finding where you want to go. You have to know your intended destination before you start, otherwise you'll be training mindlessly and you might never see specific results. Now, imagine saying that you're going on a road trip, but you have nowhere to go. I guess if you have unlimited time and maybe resources for gas, that might be fun to kind of wander around and see where you end up, but it's not a very efficient way to travel. If you start training with no end goal in mind or destination, it probably isn't going to go anywhere. So, in other words, don't be a wanderer when it comes to training. Identify your destination. Step 2 is implementation. Once you know your destination or end goal, decide what specific exercises or skills you need to develop and choose the best exercises that are going to help you get there. What adaptations do you need to train in order to get better at the skill or sport that you're training for? You want to maximize your capacity physiologically in the areas that will help you get better at your sport and make sure that the exercises or type of training you choose is going to transfer for your sport. Now, this means finding the appropriate methods that are going to help your motor learning capabilities for that particular activity or event, and look at what strength, speed, power, and endurance characteristics are most appropriate to train. Now, the third step in this process is impact. Whatever approach you're taking to your training, what type of impact is going to have on your end goal? What type of impact is that going to have? The purpose of the SAID principle or training specificity is to disrupt homeostasis and force your body to adapt to the demands placed on it so that you can increase your performance. Now, this also means managing overload, preventing overuse, preventing burnout, and finding the best path to success, not only for the short term, but for the long term. So, when you're considering your training plan, take all of these things into account. Utilize and think about the SAID principle and how it impacts and dictates your training approach. Always train with the end goal in mind. And that means finding ways to train your body to adapt to the demands you place on it so that you can increase your performance and improve a little bit every time you're training. Now, whether you are new to specificity or the SAID principle or you learned it a long time ago, I know this was fairly brief, but I hope that helped refresh your approach to training and made you think about ways to improve what you're doing and ways that you're planning your program and when training to get better at your sport. So for more information on the SAID principle, there are plenty of resources that you can check out. I would say a good starting place would be the NSCA's Essentials of Strength Training and Conditioning. I also mentioned High Performance Training for Sports. That's an excellent resource, an excellent book. And also check out Scientific Foundations and Practical Applications of Periodization. You'll find quite a bit about the SAID principle in there as well. As always, don't forget about our Human Kinetics journals. You can find those at journals.humankinetics.com, where you can find the latest research on topics like this. And don't forget to subscribe to our emails, where you can get the latest news and information from our top releases and learn about special offers. Of course, follow us on all of our social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get alerts on educational videos like this one, as well as videos from our Author Talk and Trainer Talk series. So thanks again for spending a few minutes of your time to learn more about specificity in training and the SAID principle. Until next time, stay strong and be well.